From Sunset Beach, Hawaii, weighing 267 pounds, the magnificent Muraco.
Why is it they call him magnificent?
The man who lifts condominiums off his chest.
Anything that's explosive, anything that's exciting, Prince of Darkness, Master of Destruction, perpetrator of violence. Get ready! I'm gonna burn this place down!
Hello and welcome once again. Oh, damn you, Don.
Say, welcome to part 2, Tito Santana, This Is Your Life.
Oh, do you know what? I do the intro every time. I'm keeping this in, by the way. I'm keeping this in. You do the intro. Don Muraco's Magnificent Podcast. Go on.
Here we go. Hour 2, Magnificent. This is Tito Santana, This Is Your Life, with intermittent stories all over the world.
Yeah, we might even ask or answer a question about Tito Santana in this.
Yeah.
It's like, no wonder I got 2 shows out of it. I'm just like, he's like the most like bare framework, and then tell us about Curtis Ayakea.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll do this sort of intro proper. I'm keeping that in, I'm promising you. So thank you very much for watching. Once again, Don Muraco's Magnificent Podcast. My name's James. Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, just watch another one of the shows if you really have to, if you want the plugs and books. So we're going to be doing a part 2 of Tito Santana. And by part 2 of Tito Santana, I mean pretty much part 2 of anything but Tito Santana. But, you know, that's how it goes, I suppose. And the first thing I'm going to ask you, Don, and I did actually ask this on my channel as well. And I'll tee it up a bit. So Tito it up a bit is WrestleMania 1, and Tito and Greg Valentine are in the midst of their blood feud, and for whatever reason they are not fighting each other on the big show. Tito spoke. You know, he was really disappointed to be in the opening match. He was the very first match in WrestleMania, and he was against someone called the Executioner. Do you remember who the Executioner was at WrestleMania 1?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was Kid Ron Shaw.
No,
big guy.
It was Buddy Rose.
Oh, was Buddy Rose?
Yeah, it was Buddy Rose. Yeah, he was the.
Oh, I thought so. They had another executioner, Ron Shaw.
Yeah,
that Vince Senior sent out to L.A. and he didn't like L.A. That's the guy Fuji changed his all his clothes and his bag and stuff to a bench. And they've been going home for Christmas break. Yeah,
the only one that ever happened to, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't know it was Buddy Rose.
Yeah. It was. I think it must have just been a one-time deal, but yeah, Buddy Rose and Tito Santana in the very first match of the very first WrestleMania.
He was a hell of a worker, Buddy Rose.
He
became a hell of a hand.
Yeah, this was before he put on, you know, the 100 pounds of weight as well. He was comparatively svelte in '85.
I just saw a picture of him yesterday. He was huge, just huge.
Still, you know, a great talent and everything, but it's not about Buddy Rose, and it's sort of not really about Tito Santana anyway, because I'm going to ask you, because Tito said that he was disappointed WrestleMania, that he didn't have a bigger spot on the card. But you, I imagine your disappointment was far worse, because you weren't even on the card, despite the fact that you'd returned to the WWF in January of that year full-time, I think. What was the explanation given to you why you were kept off WrestleMania 1?
That Orndorff might not want to do the job, or something. They'd want to, they'd have to switch at the end. And other than that, I was coming out of. They're coming out of that with me and me going around with Hulk, but we didn't do anything off of TV. We just everything. They just booked it straight in the house shows, and hoped that would carry. I don't know if I took the Intercontinental title back right away or what by then, but they hoped that would carry. That would carry after the big, the big blow up of WrestleMania.
No, that was that was your second run was already over by then, so it's just you and Hulk WWF title on the line on the WrestleMania stuff.
Yeah, all right.
So, and also, just because I'm asking, what was the immediate aftermath of WrestleMania? How many times did you wrestle Hulk, and how long did it last, as far as you remember?
I remember I had 3 shots in the Garden with him, but and around then went to other a lot of the East Coast cities, Philadelphia, Boston. It was never was pretty much programmed like they did the normal. There was no fanfare. I didn't double cross him, or I didn't leave him bleeding in the ring, or some and sneak up and sneak attack or something like that. It was just pretty much booked book cold with other angles going into the big shows at the time. So I was kind of getting a freebie off of it, wrestling the champ and not being totally invested in an angle or something.
Yeah,
as part of that.
Did you do you remember, like, for Saturday night's main event, because you wrestled Hulk in the main event of that, and like I can't remember which number, 2 or 3 or something like that. Were the payoffs for on NBC a lot better than your regular Madison Square Garden payoff, or about the same?
Well, you got a payoff from the company, WWF, and you got a payoff from the network as well, the TV. So yeah, it was double, so it was usually about get the same that you're getting for the house show, or you get a good, they give you a good, they give you a good for your spot on the Saturday night main event.
Mm-hmm. I should also note at this point in the Tito Santana Part 2 podcast that first 9 WrestleManias, he won his first match at the first one. He won the WrestleMania 9 match that he had with whoever he had. I can't even be bothered to look. And then he lost the other 7 in the middle. So, he was valuable to a point, putting other guys over for the majority of the WrestleMania run. In July 6th, 1985, Tito regains the IC title in Madison Square Garden in the 15-foot-high steel cage. But after the match, Greg rips off the main plate of the IC belt. Do you remember what happened to that belt? That was the one with the green strap.
I got the red one from Pedro. And then in the middle, sometime in the run, I got that green one before I dropped it to Tito. And I don't know what came after that. I think I was probably gone by then.
No, actually, in 1985, it was in 1985. It was replaced with the most famous one that Savage and Ultimate Warrior had. But do you know the fate of the green belted IC title?
No.
Greg
Tito's wife tore it up.
Yes, yeah. It's either been attributed to Tito Santana or Tito Santana's wife that they threw it away that night.
Why?
Greg smashed it up on the cage afterwards in a fit of rage, and then he just gave it back to Tito and said, "There you go." Yeah. Could have been
got big money for it now.
Yeah, I know you could have got big money for it now.
Buying all that crap all over the place.
Yeah, you're still getting quite a lot of offers for your merchandise, aren't you? Or what you've got lying around?
I haven't got anything. Yeah.
Do you
give everything away?
Yeah, you gave it all away. You didn't give it all away, did you?
Most of it, yeah. Tights and stuff. I don't know what happened to it. Guys needed tights, or guys this, boots. I just threw it away or gave it away.
Do you
not a big call for those wrestling tights around the house,
Yeah. You not have bequeathed them to your children or something like that? Were they not into having a set?
No.
Do you have any preference of like either belt, the brown strap one, the green strap one, or just whatever it was given to you? Did you not invest too much?
No. Whatever they're going, they're all beautiful titles, nice belts. They weren't Reggie Parks belts, I don't know who made them, but they had their own people there.
I don't know if you're like a big fan of certain designs of belts, but which, and if any belts that you had or that you saw in different territories that you thought, that's a really nice piece of art.
The NWA ones were nice, and I can't recall, but I know there were some genuinely well-crafted belts. I'm sure, Reggie kind of had a pattern that he had for those AWA. I think or not NWA, all the NWA straps. I think he supplied basically all the NWA wrestling belts all through all the territories, TV titles, state titles, whatever.
Going back to cage matches, and Would you rather do in your prime a cage match, or let's say, a lumberjack match, Texas death match, bull rope match, something like that? Or would you just rather have a straight match for like ease of, having an easier evening?
Well, you built to those cages and lumberjacks and Texas death matches and stuff, and then getting out of them is depending. You may be leaving the territory and just drop in the middle of the cage or middle of the thing, or you may have to figure your way out of it to keep yourself, strong to go on. Like Snuka, it was trying to figure out something to keep the title, and for him, where he wasn't going to diminish in his popularity, but just keep him strong, coming off the top. I never get credit for going the bump I took going out backwards over the top rope, hitting the cage door, falling out of the ring. That because that's so spectacular. That dive off the top, it's just.
Well, I actually updated the intro to this podcast, the long form shows that aren't the clips, and that's in it. Because I like that fallback so much, and then it was a great fallout.
Yeah, he was special, Snook.
Going back to Tito then, and I believe that he carried Jesse Ventura to his best matches ever. I mean, is that something you concur with, or did you? Because I always thought Jesse was. Someone else said, and I can't remember who said it, it's like he was fantastic on the promos, but when he got in the ring, it was all over.
Yeah. That's about it, yeah. Yeah, but he knew what he was doing. He could work his heat. He could, God, how old is Jesse? He's a bit older.
He is 70, in fact, so he's actually younger than you.
Huh. I don't know if I believe that or not. But okay. But yeah, Tito would be the one, the general leading that, But it's just, you just get your heat, have him get his heat on you, and his little posing and stuff he did. I don't know if I ever watched the match, but I imagine somebody would have to carry it.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be Jesse.
It wouldn't be Jesse. I was going to actually ask some Adrian Adonis stories. I think Adrian's daughter listens to this show, and she's mentioned a couple of times. I always love, hearing about her dad and everything like that. And I know I'm springing this on you, but any random Adrian Adonis stories with or without Jesse Ventura that you can bring up?
I don't know. Yeah, this is crossing the line there. I hadn't prepared myself for that.
No, I actually took it out of the script as well, and then at the last minute, I should have left it
in. Yeah. Not offhand. I wasn't even working that direction, thinking about those things. But he was a character. We lived out by the Tampa Stadium, second run through. When I was still a baby face, and he was a preliminary heel, and we traveled a lot together. Not a lot, but at times we'd hang out afterwards a lot, together, because there was no, it wasn't really that much of a. I was involved with Koloff or Patterson or somebody else at the time, as a baby. I never had wasn't. He wasn't a threat to me. I wasn't a threat to him. So, we were able to hang out and be friends.
Going back to Tito then, and I actually asked for some questions from subscribers from the YouTube channel, and I've got a couple here, and they're basically the same, but I'll ask this one. How did Tito react during your racially charged promos in which you would refer to him by Hispanic slurs? By the way, I'm Hispanic, and I thought these promos were great and hilarious, and I'm Hispanic, and I thought they were hilarious.
There were different times then. It was, the middle of the 80s. There weren't really slurs. They were, just, kind of, they were slurs, but they were just, offhanded, off-colored remarks that, that weren't that racially sensitive at the time. So I don't think I really ever, I don't remember any of the promos. And I'm sure I would push it a bit, with well, Jesse's the one that started calling him Chico and stuff. So so that wasn't me. I don't know. Maybe burritos or Ariba or something like that. I would do. I don't think well, she says racially charged, and I saw that in the thing, and I don't remember even Rocky. I remember a couple Rocky Johnson promos were a little sensitive, but you're talking mid to early '80s, and it wasn't that tense of a situation, wasn't that tense of going down.
Yeah, people could take an insult and sort of just get on with their day instead of having like some sort of giant meltdown.
Yeah, I wasn't going after entire cultures. I was just making fun of Tito or wherever I had plenty of practice with Pedro. God knows I spent the first 2 years married to Pedro, so that wasn't so it was easy coming after Latinos with that.
Did you ever, like, for anyone that you wrestled and you were cutting interviews on, did you ever like run past something? Listen, I'm going to say this about you today. Is that okay? Or were you just like, it's better to ask for forgiveness rather than permission?
I don't know. I don't think so. And I don't think like there was the howdy doody thing with Bob, and it's okay. That's fine. I got a lot of other places, other directions I can go with on that. So it's not. It wasn't. You're cutting handfuls of interviews at the time, so this one. Please, don't go that way. We don't want to go that way. And you got to remember, lots of the interviews back then too. You're going backwards. Like you're going like, well, 4 weeks from tonight, I'm fighting you in Madison Square Garden, or I'm fighting this guy in Madison Square Garden. I'm going to be at my best, and then building up the intensity or building up as you go down. Well, 3 weeks from tonight, next week week from today, Monday night in the Garden, Pedro Morales, I'm coming. But that's after 3 or 4 weeks of build up. Then good Latin Americans, whatever you are, Puerto Rican, something, and you get down. But that's, you kind of, you build yourself into a frenzy, work yourself into a shoot.
Did you ever used to watch other people's interviews as they were doing them and who you were feuding with, and then you thought, I can use that to refer to or so-and-so, and then, tie everything together in that sense?
Yeah, in a manner, yes. But normally, your babyface interviews are pretty vanilla. So there's not, and you could, there's things like I said, there's things you can do to make fun of them, and to be insulting, and be a jerk, which was easy, it's pretty easy for a heel. So there's always stuff you can do, and by by chance, you can listen to, and if you hear a point, you can attack it. But babyface, unless you're involved, in something, or somebody's got a special personality, then they're pretty much vanilla. It's like, well, this guy is not a great promo. Yeah, but he's only been doing babyface promos for the last 3 or 4 years. Give him a chance. He's got to make a run. And get a feel get his feet wet, being a heel and being a real dick.
Tito would start battling Macho Man Randy Savage in 1985, who would obviously go to lose. I'll say obviously if you know it, go to lose the title 1986 to Savage. But the match I want to focus on, the event, you weren't on the card, but you must have heard about it or even seen some clips, is the event in Puerto Rico that's in an outdoor stadium, and there's barely anybody in the arena, and it starts in the stadium, and it starts raining torrentially. And Savage is in the ring. He can't stop slipping over. It's just a complete debacle. Did you ever see anything or like hear about that when everyone got back?
No, I remember a few times wrestling, getting caught outdoors in the rain and stuff like that. It's a real nightmare. You don't know whether to turn your boots off or leave your boots on. And if you leave your boots on, you completely ruin them because they get all totally soaked because they're all leather stuff anyway. And then you take your, and everything you do, you're sliding all over the place. So I don't think you'd find a lot of those matches in any classic reels.
What's like the worst weather you've ever been caught in during a wrestling match?
Those rainy days, those rainy weather. Outdoors in the cold in Japan. Well, no snow, but cold as hell. That's it. The rain and heavy rain out. Whatever can go wrong in an outdoor show. As pretty much anybody that's worked the circuit for some time has had rain or snow or no ring showing up or something like that. One time or another.
With outdoor events, I mean, apart from the weather not going your way, what else can sort of go wrong with outdoor events that it just doesn't really seem to with indoor events, maybe?
All the dirt clods in the ground. They put the rocks inside of cups and stuff and throw them, and makes for better targets. Makes you an easier target. They put the dirt clods and stuff on I remember Oklahoma City one time. It was on top of the rodeo grounds, and they had open spaces in it, but they'd have the rodeo dirt, and they'd fill the cups up and stuff with dirt and hit you with those. Yeah.
Did you ever wrestle in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah. First time was out of Florida with oh God. I was in a tag team with I'm trying to think, let's say Dick Slater, I'm not sure. But I think we were wrestling Toru Tanaka and one of the earliest ones, Rino Tufuli, I think. And we tried to do something, cute, like they were doing the jab beginning thing, and boy, I did nothing. Got no reaction. They were their own fans, their own federation. I don't know what the hell we were doing there. Why? They were starting up. Somebody else was going in there as opposition, or somebody else was running something against Cologne, and Vince Senior had sent a bunch of sent a card down there. I don't know to run as who for pro or anti-Cologne. I don't know what it was. Had a good house, but boy, yeah. That hard.
Did you ever wrestle in any of the Caribbean countries as well? Was it just apart from Puerto Rico? I mean, did you do full tours or just spot shows, basically?
Yeah, kind of spot shows. We'd go down for a couple of days at a time. Fuji, of course, Ariba, Curacao, St. Thomas. I don't remember where it was. I remember one time we were Jose Gonzalez, the guy that stabbed Brody.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy came in, the magazine guy came in and speaking Spanish. I said, here, trying to give me the magazine. I said, no, not me. No. He left it. He just left it. I said, hell with it. It wasn't much money. So I took it down. The only time I ever won, while we were living Standing Casino, went back and put the whole thing on something, and it paid off. Oh God! So I bought the chicken and rice and dinners for everybody. So that was one of the exciting moments. Some other ones with food, but they're not to be repeated.
I've only done that once in a casino. It was only like £5 or something. It was my birthday, and I just went number 29 for the birthday, and it came in. And then I lost it all anyway, so it was a complete waste of £5 really in the end. Oh, dear, like
my son just went to Vegas, and I gave him $100. I put this on 13 red. I said, if you hit, I want half. I guess it didn't hit. Or he's the blackjack tables.
If it did hit, he just may never have come back.
Yeah.
Right, so then I'll move on. And people have pointed out, so I asked you a question. I remember you really liking this question. is that you talked pidgin English while calling spots to Tito.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, well, it was probably because Mr. Fuji was outside, but people have pointed out that for the most part, you were wrestling Tito before Fuji was your manager. So do you reckon you would have would that be like a kind of rib or prank you'd do on somebody? Do you go,
Sure, yeah. I guess, sometimes. I remember talking to Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo when they were me and I said, we'll do, how about we just go this and bada bang and you do this and bang, bing, boom, boom, and we'll do that thing there. And what did you just say? Because after a while, everything becomes, you figure everybody's, everybody's on the same mental pattern that you're traveling on. It says, well, we'll try this thing, and if that doesn't work, bam, bam, good guy, bad guy stuff, and run through that, and just get used to laying it down, and then.
Would you have ever ribbed Tito in any other way, in ring or behind the scenes or anything like that?
No, I wasn't that. Wasn't that. Because there weren't a lot of guys you ribbed. The one that I ribbed, I was, I have most verbal stuff, that shit. My wife left and left the dog outside.
Yeah. Do you want me to wait?
No, that's all right. I'll get him when they go by.
Okay then. So speaking of, you were doing pidgin English, maybe as a wind up, maybe not. Who were the wrestlers in ring who were the best communicators, who could really cover the tracks, get the message over with nobody else noticing, and who were the worst, who would either mumble and you couldn't tell what they were saying, or just go, "Dr. Clothesline," something really loud like that everybody in the arena could hear?
Oh God. Oh, I don't know. I never. Because some guys you just go by feel, and you go by feel and you go by what's reacting. You don't have a lot laid out. Some guys you got a lot of stuff laid out that you want to get to, or maybe you're working for a return or something. Gosh, Patterson was always kept up. I know he, I'd never tried to call a match with him because I know he always, he's always, it was his idea or his way or the highway. He pretty much thought he was, in control of everything. He'd be one of them. But as far as talk, everybody did talk there. I never. Well, naturally Fuji. Because I was babyface with him lots of times, and he was but I don't. Yeah, so I'm Mad Dog Vachon. He, the only one that would growl everything at you, and you just go, "What?" Aside from that, I can't think offhand.
No. So there's
Sometimes
nobody.
Robinson got a little.
Sorry,
Robinson would get a little technical. What's that?
I was going to say, so there was nobody particularly loud who, the first 5 rows would hear it.
Oh, some fooling around maybe in a spot show or little high school or VFW or something like that. And and people, this goes over their head too lots of times. That you're not, unless, the people aren't weren't as smart then as they are now. And then, you could get away with, you'd be fooling around and go with that one tackle, drop down, you missed it. Or something happened, you just missed me. There'd be a wise guy, but it wasn't, the crowd was insulted with professional wrestling, professional critics, like they are nowadays.
Yeah,
I see these guys. I see them, and they write, and the Facebook, and they write about inferior and the talent, and they don't like it, but they spent 3 hours watching the whole show. I said, wait a second, I don't even watch these whole shows, but you guys you're sitting there to critique these guys, and there's nothing to critique because of the workers. The workers are fabulous now.
I think, do you know what? Everyone's got a voice with the internet, and I think a lot of people are desperate to be heard. But it's like, I'd never take the opinion of somebody who, that match was 2 3/4 stars. It's like,
yeah.
shut up. Like, it was either you're either entertained.
Well, that was really
or,
the decline and fall of when they let those guys, the Dave Meltzers and then those guys in, and they started rating matches and stuff according to one person's 2 stars, 1 star.
I think it's when wrestlers started caring about the star system. That was probably the
could be
more downfall.
Pretty much after, yeah, and that's accelerated the perform. Trying to keep up with the I'm sure that led hand in hand into the they show the suplexes off the top and the bumps off the top and no selling and 15 finishes as high spots and carried on to where things are today. I'm sure that
nothing means anything anymore and everything. Nothing's a finisher and
yeah.
Oh, I don't know. That's why I don't watch anymore. I've not watched in years. I mean,
they made it so hard for themselves. They made it so, and then you read these, it's like 50-50, like everything else. People, we long for the old days. We long for and then other people are, this guy is great, or I can't think of any of the names offhand, but there's some Daniel Bryan or. What's the guy's name?
Kenny Omega.
Yeah. Guys like that. These guys are, fantastic and stuff like that. And they are. I mean, they're even like I'm watching WWE now. Seth Rollins. They're trying to push him again, and I don't know what he has kind of hold he's got in the office, but he's getting all the shots. He and his wife both. And he's a fine talent, tremendous talent in the ring, out of the ring, meeting, doing talk shows and stuff like that. He's, personal, intelligent guy, but he's just been burned out. It's like watching Bobby Lashley or Roman Reigns every week getting the hell kicked out of him. What do you want to do that to your champion for? I don't understand. It just, if I had somebody like Bobby Lashley, so I just leave him sitting over there like a jewel in the corner and bring him in, see Flair, when Flair was doing the Atlanta TV, he would make sure he was there every Saturday morning, not necessarily to wrestle, but to be there in his fine suits and coats and the alligator shoes and the Rolex watches. And he'd have his, 3 to 5 minute promos and brilliant promo guy, but he knew that TBS was going all over the country, all over the world. I remember seeing it in Guam one time. So he knew, so he was there every Saturday morning, regardless whether he was in tech. Well, sometimes he would be other places, but he'd take a red eye to get back to Atlanta and the connections. And he'd be back to Atlanta and then back out, to whatever territory he was coming from, Charlotte or Texas, or wherever he happened to be out that night. But come in and he'd do that, 5 minute promo, have that 5 minute spot on TV, and make sure he always had that.
We've sort of gone on to Flair now, but I mean, as far as, is he, when you think of wrestling, professional wrestling as it should be, is Flair the best at it as a complete package?
Oh, gee, I don't know. He sure, he dominated his time, dominated his time, and he was smart, and he worked with the office as well. And he worked, he was the guy, he even said, Christmas Day, I'm on the plane going to Puerto Rico, where everybody else is home with their families, He was the ultimate soldier, he would turn up. And then people go, well, he had the same match every time, which, isn't exactly true, because depending on you, but, the turnbuckle or the, walk down the apron or different, the slam off the top, you could, but he was doing that in every territory with different guys, so it kept getting played over and over again. As far as being the ultimate, I don't know. There's so many guys that were so good, but yeah, he made the most use of it. He made the best. He was the most opportune, made the most opportunities of being that and doing that. We're representing that NWA World Title.
As far as today's wrestlers, what So is it the matches that don't quite make as much sense to you, or is it the booking that sort of brings wrestling down from what it could be? Is it more on the wrestlers, or more on the owners and creative types?
Well, wrestlers are just producing to a level, trying to fill in that space that fans trying to fill in that time to get whatever message, their position in the card or their position in the territory might be. So, it's necessary for the booking to present you in a light where you can show your way at that. I think it's just the storytelling, the booking that's really lacking. And these guys are filling their time with these, brilliant high spots, brilliant finishes that they're never going to use until they get to the, like Japan, until they get to the one point where they're, and then time's up and it's time to go home.
And then they do all the finishes, they do all the big moves, and then they win with a roll up.
Yeah, yeah. That kind of worked its way in from Japan. Japan was as old as the blame for that. Yeah. Some of those.
And Dave Meltzer giving 5 stars to all those Japanese matches as well.
Yeah.
I reckon that's got something to do. And the thing is, I think Dave Meltzer's great, historical purposes. He's got to be the best living historian for wrestling. But as far as like what he deems as a great match, I couldn't disagree more for the most part.
There's a guy that's never laced up a pair of boots. Mm-hmm. Never had a crowd that's high or low or in the medium. Never had to work. Never just sat back and entertained me. Maybe he's in a shitty mood. Maybe his girlfriend isn't being good to him, so nothing's going to entertain him that night. But I don't know. When they let those guys in, and it was Howard Finkel and some of those other guys that were communicating back and forth with him, Cornette and Howard Finkel and some of those guys that put stock in their criticisms.
I know we've gone completely off topic, but why not? Yeah. Why not? Why not indeed? When was the first time you saw, it probably would have been the Wrestling Observer, when was the first time you actually saw a sheet and you were just like, what is this?
So what?
The Wrestling Observer or some sort of dirt sheet that was spilling the beans. Oh, God,
I saw that. Probably not till the 80s, sometime in the 80s. And then, first it was a wrestling. I never, the different territories. I think I never saw one till I was in WWF. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think they were even around till maybe like 82, 83, something like that.
Yeah.
But, like no one would admit to being a subscriber, I take it.
Yeah, but people, the sheets, you get the sheets handed down. Some people, a lot of guys didn't have addresses in at the time either, on the road and stuff, so, it was, you'd be getting it from somewhere. A friend of yours that was a fan or a follower might be, we would have a subscription to it.
But you'd all read them, like all pass them around the locker room and then hate them.
Yeah.
But still read them.
Yeah. That son of a man! You don't know what he's talking about.
Well, I bet do you know what? I bet he's made a lot of money from it. Must have tens of thousands of subscribers to that thing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So yeah, that's what $10, $11 per month.
Well, they view him. Those guys are viewed as semi-authority,
the authority for some people. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're viewed as authorities and stuff. It is what it is,
It is what it is. I'll tell you what, we'll move back on to Tito Santana,
right.
the man that we are determined not to talk about on this show. But
remember him, yeah.
That guy. I'll bring him up again. And where was I, in fact? Yes. After the Savage run, he eventually tags up with Rick Martel. And I don't know if I've ever asked you. I may have done, and I can't remember what you said. Rick Martel in the late 80s, but let's go to Rick Martel in the early 80s when you would have seen him tagging with Tony Gurria.
Great worker, always, follow. I met him he followed me in New Zealand. He came in, Curtis and Ewan again. There you go. I was, they'd bring me in. I was in their baby face. And, Curtis and they'd run their program and run through. And then they could run the territory really cheap. Then they'd bring a big top baby face in. Mark would step back. Either Curtis would be the primary healer. At one time they brought Fuji in, or different. Joe LeDuc. Other guys went to New Zealand for him. Abdullah to work his heels for him in New Zealand. So, again, when we're going here,
Rick Martel.
Oh yeah, so he followed me into New Zealand after I had my run with Curtis and the whatever Commonwealth title and Commonwealth belts and stuff like that, and went through. And he would, after about 6, 7, 8 months, I was done. He would take over, and I went to Australia, and he would run the programs, and Mark would be his partner, and he would be wrestling and featured against the champion. Then he'd become champion. Then 6, 8 months, the next baby face would come through. So that's when I first met him, and he'd been to Florida before that. And Jack Briscoe, he speaks of Briscoe highly because Jack he spoke no English. He was from Quebec City, and he spoke little to no English to get by. So and so it was is a effort for him at the time, breaking in. So in New Zealand, from New Zealand, I met him. He was already in New York, WWF, when I first came there. And the Moondogs, I believe, were the champions. I don't know, or they were the champions, taking it from the Moondogs. But they were working with the Moondogs primarily. And then Fuji and Saito followed, and different tag teams like they're looking up now.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up while you carry on.
I'm certain it was the Moondogs, and my first match I had with him in the Garden, Madison Square Garden. Like I tell you, I started kind of ass backwards as a heel. I'd come and had my 6-8 weeks of taping of annihilating guys in Allentown at their 3-hour wrestling shows, annihilating guys like that. And normally your big heel would go right to 3-shot 2 or 3 or however many plans shots with the champion. Where I came out of there, and I went to Intercontinental title with Pedro, and then I started the Guard with Ricky, my first match with Martel in a single, and it wasn't even I dropped him on the top rope and he went to the floor, and it was a count out. So it wasn't I wasn't busting down any doors or anything. Had a hell of a match. He was a hell of a worker. So, and then people weren't accustomed to those type of high spots and that type of continuity at the time, because I was moving good. Martel, he was always moving good. So it was kind of an ass backward start, and I came in as the title, and then morphed to then the champion in the Backland rematches with Pedro, and then back into Bobby.
Yeah, it seems a bit of a shame, really, because Rick Martel, even in the early 80s, seemed like he should have been the AWA World Champion, and Vern just wasn't pressing the button on him. I don't know if he thought he was too small or just stuck in his ways, but was Rick Martel... he would eventually win the heavyweight title and then come back to the WWF in 86. Was he world champion caliber? Because he looked... he's a great-looking guy.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, good comeback, good solid work in the ring, great comeback, a lot of fire. Like we're talking about Tito, and never consideration about getting hurt or hurting him, because he was always going to be wherever you're throwing something or what you're doing. So he was there, and if you were half-assed with it, you'd be there for him. So it wasn't a case of everything. You think you'd probably maybe go over what you're going down or what you're trying to get across or whatever, but it was never a thought of screwing up or getting hurt or making a mistake when you're in the ring with him. It was gonna, you look forward. There's guys, lots of guys, and most of the guys there at the time, you look forward to having, excellent matches with, just 5-star, 4 or 5-star matches going into the ring with these guys. Even Johnny Rods or SD down you'd slip around to the beginning of the card. Maybe you go on a loop like New Hampshire, or Vermont, Maine for 3 or 4 days. So you couple days you're with alternate spots. You're on the top with the champion in alternate spots. You're opening the card with the SDs and Johnny Rods, and you just fit in the plate. Nobody was really into that. I got to be on top thing. The champion would, and the champion has guys, but if the cities were proximity to the cities, you change up main events, and you go somewhere else.
Since I mentioned him as well, Tony Gurria. I've never asked you about Tony Gurria, memories of him. I think Honky Tonk Man always called him Mr. Personality.
Oh, yeah. Honky Tonk don't like a lot of guys. Imagine what he gets to say about me. Yeah, Tony's good. Tony, Tito, they were there. It was a job to them. They had their lunch pail and their uniform on. They showed up to work. They did what they had to do. They got on the road. They saved their money. They never got stupid, never got crazy, and just went to the next town. The reoccurring theme. You never worried about getting hurt. You never worried about things really going off track with him. It was always it was always a night off. All these guys are night off. And if you put a little bit of thought into it, you can tear the house apart. Because they're all that type of workers. I think, going in those days, going to New York, you didn't go to teach people. Like, you did put you together with Johnny Rods. Maybe as you're coming in, or you're a new guy and they want to see you, or something like that, you'd be, battling Johnny or SD or Cicluna or one of those guys in the preliminaries. And then they had the idea that they wanted to see somebody. But everybody was there to get themselves over, and to be over. So there's a chance in any portion of the card, truly great match could break out.
Did Tony Gurria ever wrestle you or work with you, or were you there at the same time, Australia, New Zealand that way, or was he just always WWF almost?
I did I meet him in Florida? No. I know he was in Frisco. We were in Frisco together.
Okay.
Was I a heel or baby? I'm pretty sure I was a heel at the time. I'm not certainly, but I probably was a heel. So I worked with Tony a lot, different places. God, San Francisco. Yeah, I was a heel because I remember going way into Nevada with Sergeant LeBoeuf and two of the girl wrestlers. There's 4 of us in the car. And Pat was Elko and Winnemucca, Nevada. You never heard of him. I haven't heard of him again. And both shows they canceled. So, yeah, Tony was in the car with Vicky Williams and another girl. And I was with LeBoeuf and me and I think it was Donna and Tony Rose. The 4 of us that we were traveling together. So I was a heel then. So, yeah, I had a lot of occasion to wrestle Tony.
I thought you were going to finish off the stories, and there were 2 days off. You were in the desert with a bunch of people, and I thought there was going to be some sort of,
UFO.
Yeah, UFO or some sort of what do they call it when they wander in the desert? Vision quest.
Oh yeah. No, a vision of Shires being a nice guy.
We'll go on to. Do you know what we should do? I don't know why we don't do San Francisco. That'll be like a 28-parter, I'm sure. But we'll move on again. Strike Force. Mantell comes back from the AWA. Well, he does, but then it's Can-Am connection with Tom Zenk. Tom Zenk leaves. Strike Force. And the one thing that struck me the most is it always a mistake to wear white trunks?
Well, that's what they said about the baby blue that I get into too. Yeah, it's hard to keep. You gotta have a different pair for every night. I would spend a lot of time washing them out.
Well, exactly. Well, my point was going to be. I mean, surely not to delve too much into your personal affairs or anything, but I've heard a lot of stories where people with white or bright coloured trunks can't control themselves in some way, and a little poo comes out during a match.
That could be true. And I'm sure the white. I remember seeing the MMA girl, the girl that got, I think, somebody knocked her out. And they had her in the bag. Her pants were all soiled. Oh God! I thought, speaking of Valentine, that dirty nuggets. And I was just man in the baby face. I hung myself in the ropes, and he's instead of just working with him, he's actually squeezing the ropes. So I'm figuring he's going to choke me out. I'm going to crap my pants and pass out, in front of a sold-out arena in the Spectrum in Philadelphia. I said, "What are you doing?" So I flipped my hand. So I untied myself right away. I said, "Not around this guy."
Could have killed the
even
town
back then, he was plotting to embarrass me.
Greg Valentine, if I ever find your contact details, Greg Valentine, you have to come on this show. Definitely. I want you to face off.
Yeah, but we won't give him a speaker.
Yeah. Just give him abuse for an hour.
No microphone.
Yeah.
Just stand there and throw things at him.
Don Muraco, uninterrupted abuse, and Greg Valentine can't do anything for 1 hour.
Take this. Click.
We'll go to Strikeforce then again, and the Islanders. I've not really mentioned. Have I brought up Haku to you before? It's Haku and Tama, the Islanders.
No.
Any Haku stories?
Gee, nothing that hasn't been told. He was from Tonga. They sent him to. He's actually from Tonga, and he went to. So was Barbie, I guess. And they sent him to Japan to go into sumo, the actual sumo. So he was there, and I guess he didn't dig, washing everybody's back and wiping everybody's butt and stuff like that. He said, "I'm out." And so evidently they passed him, sent him on to Baba, and he's still in good favor with All Japan Pro Wrestling. I think his two sons have started there, and I just saw a picture. His daughter sent a picture of him and his grandson eating some dessert. His grandson's about 3 years old. He looks like he's about 17. He's a huge monster already.
I know all the stories have been told before then, but I mean, I don't know if it's first hand or second hand or whatever, but everyone loves to hear the toughness of Haku and fights with Haku. Did you see any of them, or at least were near one?
A little bit after Jesse Jack, I was in the same town that night. I didn't see it. I never saw.
Yeah. Jimmy Jack.
Just had this. Yeah.
Yeah.
They went out to dinner with somebody. They got a ride from somebody, and I guess he was feeling pretty good. Jimmy Jack, Jesse Bourne, and I guess he walked over the guy's car. Just with his boots on, his shoes on, whatever is working, and some bum. Push led to shove, and before you knew it, Funk was missing an eye.
Jesus. Oh my God. It's got to be, well, I don't know why you do that to Haku. It seemed that Haku always seemed to bear the brunt of people trying it on with him, trying to start a fight with him. It's like, why would you try with the scariest man there? So with Andre.
Wrong place, wrong time. He's got a bad rap. He's the nicest guy in the world. Believe he's an Islander. Me, him, Snuka, some of the other guys. Nicest guy in the world, But pick your poison.
It's Tama, but it's the Tonga Kid. Did you have any interaction with Tonga Kid?
He could have been. When they sent Jimmy to rehab, he came in and he took all the spots with Pipe. He took all of Snooker's spots. They named him the Tonga. He was Samoan, but they gave him a Tonga Kid. I don't know why that came phonetically correct or something, but he took off and he was doing all that break dancing, and he had a lot of beautiful, a lot of nice stuff, a lot of young, the young kid stuff that people were doing at the time. And he really got over it. He got over it himself too. But that was, that he could have been there. He could have made. He did make tons of money in a short time. 6, and then, but that was previous to him and the Islander. And then he came back as in the tag team with those guys. He was a talented guy. grew up around the uncles, off in Sneaker and in the rings they always had. So he knew his way around the ring and everything. He just got into himself. But coming out of some of that thing with Piper, and those are all they were, due to the nature of Roddy's work alone. They're always really confused finishes, never really hurting anybody. Somebody getting their hand, usually Roddy getting his hand raised and you looking good, but nevertheless, none of the feet finishes hurt him, and he could dive off the top rope, leapfrog, break dance, whatever he wanted. He was. And then they all went back into that Islander mood. Yeah.
And there was also, speaking of like attempted replacements of Jimmy Snuka, there was CV Affy as well, I believe, who came in straight away and just they weren't having it at all. Fans saw straight through that one.
He's a good worker. He was a good worker, but he didn't have the charisma and the fire and the spirit that somebody else. Snuka just had I don't know what, it's hard to put a finger on what Jimmy had. He did the Hulk Hogan thing, Bruno Sammartino, Antonio Rocca thing, whatever it is. It was it. You got it, he had it. So Jimmy had it. So Siva was a good worker, good performer, good everything else. Just didn't have the fire and the electricity of Snuka. But Tonga Kid, on the other hand, could have really stayed there and done some mileage, but we got crazy. And,
is this crazy with ego or just crazy on being on the road and being
I
young
don't know,
and on the
probably,
road?
a little bit of both. I'm sure, one feeds the other.
I don't know if you know the answer to this because I didn't really research it myself, but Strikeforce breaks up with Rick Martel leaving for several months because his wife was really ill. Do you remember that at all?
No.
Yeah.
Rick Martel's wife?
Yeah, he took a leave of absence from the WWF.
She's a French Canadian lady. I met her several years ago, and he came over here. The Metal Maniac was running the show, and they were, he was around. And I think he's got a timeshare in one of the islands, like Bret Hart does. But I don't hear from him. Mostly this goes straight to the island now.
Okay, we'll leave Strikeforce just for now because actually during Rick Martel's hiatus, Tito Santana is given on-screen credit for bringing in the Warlord and the Barbarian, the Powers of Pain. You mentioned Barbarian before. So didn't you say at one point that Barbarian was also involved in sumo at one point? Am I going crazy there?
I think so. I heard that as well. That he pretty much the same place as Haku came from, Fifita. How true it is, I don't know. I'm running off of rumors too, so I don't have any facts. I think I heard him say one time that on one of the podcasts like this that he was in Japan and one of the sumotori dojos or something. Wouldn't surprise me. He's a big, huge, powerful guy.
Yeah. With the Powers of Pain coming in, I mean, Demolition, we're crediting you with the idea of Demolition now.
Credit, I get the credit for knockoff gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, the Powers of Pain was a real knockoff gimmick. That was as knockoff as it was going to get. To the face paint, to the the super bodies and everything.
Nice guys, good workers, good, good. There was a lot of room for those Road Warrior knockoffs. There was, when you looked at the Road Warriors and Ultimate Warrior and Sting and, Demolition and Powers of Pain and all, it was that Mad Max phenomenon traveling through the world, Europe and the United States, that really lent to, these guys. And it was easy to knock off them. However, they're still doing it. There's still all the bikers and face paint and stuff. I got to give a lot of credit to the guys that went as Hell's Angels, because you never know, when the biker club can hey, wait a second here. You're not a Hell's Angel, and you haven't got permission to wear our colors. So, those guys had a lot of balls.
Hillbilly Jim, he did that, didn't he, in Memphis? He was. I think
Did
he was
he?
called Harley Davidson. Yeah, that was his previous character.
Well, Harley Davidson's not bad. Calling yourself an angel or a renegade or something like that from the actual clubs and wearing colors like that, that's walking the fine line.
That's a different type of
between reality and fiction.
Yeah.
How much you want to go, and those guys are nuts. Not nuts, but they're certainly
Yeah. Nuts.
mafioso.
Nuts is fair enough, I think. We'll do a couple more then. So Mantell breaks up with Santana, Strikeforce splits up and everything. Tito, it's pretty much the end of Tito's run in sort of like the upper card, and then he gets shunted down somewhat, and people winning at his expense for the next few years, and then he's repackaged as a matador for the last 18 months of his run. Have you ever been asked or suggested to you to completely change your character and name, apart from that weird run in '94 with the war promotion in Japan? Has Owen ever said, "Do you know what you'd be good as"?
No, not after I'd established, Magnificent Morocco, that whole heel persona that I had going on. Tito was very smart. He bought a house in New Jersey, lived in New Jersey, let his family grew and his wife, and put up, and he was able to keep himself in that middle to upper middle portion for years and years, making extraordinary money compared to the people in the rest. Guys, main eventers in other territories weren't making what he was making in a year or in a week. I would have to say Bockwinkel or the AWA champion, or those guys. Any territory stars that weren't part of the promotion. Aside from Dusty Rhodes or Orley Anderson or something like that, they were making. They were lucky if they're equaling Tito's money for the year or his weekly salary. I mean, he was just kicking it back, and he was able to hold his ego down, to hold his and able to sit in that spot there, and just like a team player, boy. He was just able to sit there and just Strike Force and this and the Matador, this and that and this, everything. It would come to you for a while. Live your little soldier to the McMahons. They're pretty good. They're good. They're good to you.
I'll ask a couple more, then we will shut this down. ECW, sort of the '93, after Tito had left and you were still there. You would actually trade the ECW world. It's not a world title. It's like a regional title, but I'm sure they called it a world title probably. No, they probably wouldn't have done. Anyway, someone asked a question about this, and it's Andrew Carrick. Was his last match with Tito, his being you, in ECW? Also at that stage, how did he feel Tito worked then? Tito seemed from a fan's perspective to never really diminish compared to other guys, so it would be interesting to hear if he felt that there was anything Tito lost in that 8 to 10 years later when he was on the independents.
You got to figure I lost a lot too.
Yeah.
I was no longer a whirling dervish myself. I from beginning to end, I never felt threatened by Tito. I never felt diminished work rate. I never felt that he was not a exceptional partner to have in the ring. I don't think his work. He's clean livered. I don't think he gave one 5 or 10 pounds up or down the whole time I knew him from the early '80s until the late '80s. Throughout the whole '80s, I don't think I ever saw a body change on him or attitude change or anything. Nothing. He was just flatline all the way through, just business and excellence. What the excellence execution or whatever. He was, he was a consummate pro. He was, God, if somebody got some stink to talk about him, I'd love to hear it. And maybe it's valid, but I probably just I would think, if you got anything rotten to say about him, just be sour grapes.
Yeah, no,
So
I don't think it's sour grapes. No, I think he's actually complimenting, saying he never seemed to change. He always seemed to be in top shape, even years after the WWF in ECW.
yeah, looked the same, worked the same, acted the same. He was
Tito.
easy.
Pretty much the last questions now. So, final Tito thoughts. Actually, a couple of people have asked these questions. David Rish, can you ask Don why Tito Santana wasn't WWE champion?
It wasn't in the stars. I don't know. You have to consult McMahon. He certainly had the talent, certainly had the ability. He was an ethnic person. He was a person of color, of different color. Would have fit well with the mold of Bruno and Pedro and down the line. He came along at a time when, it was Hulk's world, So everybody was grabbing onto a piece of Hulk and going for a ride there. Qualities qualified, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm like I just say like we go with the promos. He never had a chance to, but maybe he did later with the Matador and stuff like that to run with promos and to develop a voice. But even then, he was not developing his voice, he was developing the Matador's voice. So whether it was actually the Mercedes Solis or Tito Santana or Matador, you don't know, which character he was lending himself to.
The Matador character, one thing changed. It went from Ariba to Olay, and that's it.
Oh yeah,
and green trousers and a cape.
Yeah, I remember he had that beautiful outfit. Yeah, sparkly.
Yeah, no, he looked lovely. Not world championship material in the Matador outfit, at least.
No.
But where does he rank as far as, let's say, before Ultimate Warrior, when the IC title was really the workers' title? Where does he rank in the, from best to worst? Not that there was even slightly a worst who ever had that title in the first few years, at least.
I don't know. You'd have to check the books. You'd have to look, how they're drawing. I guess, I'm sure he and Valentine did good business. And with Honky Tonk? Was this after Honky Tonk or before?
No, this was before Honky Tonk. Greg was like 84, 85. Honky's run was 87, 88.
Who'd he take it off of? Tito?
Honky Tonk.
No, Macho Man.
Yes, he did.
Macho Man.
Yeah, he took it off Macho Man, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, he was a utility player, and it was a solid. They were featuring the heel, it was featuring for Greg or myself or whoever the heel was at the time, to build up for another baby face going through him on their way to being all praise and honor going to Hulk, praise and glory. So he was, as far as, he'd be like, I guess like Patterson or I don't know, I'm no different than anybody else. It's depends what they were doing with the Intercontinental title at the time. I had success with it because it came out at a time where it was in between and yeah. In between, Hulk getting there and so different time. Right here, come on.
I'll.
Oh, the other one's in there. Sorry.
Does somebody have to juice?
Chips.
Oh, chips. Okay,
Moose.
one more.
He was the mouse. He was the mouse. Now he's the moose.
Right, one more, and then I will let you go. Sensitive Rabitude has asked, do you feel that Tito gets enough respect for what he gave to the wrestling business? I'd probably say no. I don't think his name comes up often enough. When you talk about the great workers of that era, I don't think people would automatically go Steamboat or Savage or whoever else, and they'd sort of ignore Tito.
Yeah, well, everything kind of got pushed towards Savage. Warrior, Hulk, any those type of characters, and any type of in there, the pita chips. Right up here. Oh no, I don't have any nachos. No. He was in that, he was in that. They tried to put him on the merchandising with the shiny pants and the cape and everything else. And they tried, but evidently, he wasn't a commercial bonanza like the other guy, like a Warrior and the other guys and stuff. So and he'd been there for quite a while. So he was an old name. If you talk to the boys or talk to wrestlers and stuff, he's like I said, if somebody had some rotten to say about him, I'd like to hear it. I'd be curious, what they'd have to say. Enough respect. Now that it's professional wrestling is different now, and it's I looked at it in a different era, but he's part of a different era too. Or how much respect do you really get? Being an ex-wrestler or being a professional wrestler, from that time and that era. But he was as good as there was. As good as anybody. Maybe not the greatest, but the guys that could deliver. I don't know. Coming. Unless you get to a Dynamite Kid or somebody like that, that's completely extraordinary as far as just wrestling ability. He was second to none.
I had something to say then, I've completely forgotten it. Damn.
The chip,
yeah, that was it. Yeah, something about food. I think it's always about food. I'll tell you what. Then I'll leave this podcast alone. You can help your grandson find all the snacks in the house.
My wife hides them down here, so they don't eat them all upstairs. She keeps her tequila down here, and the kids, everybody's down. I'm walking in on my room, get candy and chips and crap. I said, take them upstairs, so they'll eat them. I said, that's what they're there for. Oh, God.
Or they just hidden under the sofa cushions or something. They
hide them there anyway.
Oh, yeah. Right, so I will shut down this podcast. Thank you very much for watching. The usual plugs. I can't bother doing the plugs. It's 11 o'clock at night for me, and I'm tired now. So forget the plugs.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, you can do some books if you want to buy them. We will catch you next week. Thank you very much for watching.
Aloha.